At 16, I found myself trapped in a difficult situation when my parents pressured me to hand over a $117,000 inheritance from my grandmother to my older sister, Mia, who is 6 years older than me. Mia had always made my life harder, constantly bullying me in ways our parents dismissed as normal sibling rivalry. They often said I was just being too sensitive, brushing off my feelings. This disregard for my well-being was painfully evident a few years back during a family beach trip when I was 11. Mia and her friends, who shared her dislike for me, pulled a cruel prank by shoving a plastic bag over my head and pushing me into the water.
I struggled to free myself and swim to safety.
Terrified, but when I told my family, they laughed it off as a harmless joke, leaving me feeling unheard and unprotected.
Years later,
the culmination of these experiences, especially being forced to give up my inheritance to fund Mia's business, left me feeling betrayed and alone. Mia recently sent me photos of her successful store launch, seemingly to rub it in. The sight of her celebrating with my money only deepened the hurt. I resolved to focus on my education, get into a good college, and distance myself from the toxic dynamics of my family. My goal was to build a future where trust and respect would shape my relationships, unlike what I had endured at home. About a year ago, my grandmother, my dad's mother, passed away, and a few months ago, we finally settled her estate, while she left most of her assets, including her home, to my parents. Mia and I each inherited $177,000. My grandmother also left me a sapphire ring that I had admired as a child. Fortunately,
my parents didn't recognize its true value,
so it remained mine. My plan was to save my inheritance for the future, but my parents had other ideas. Mia was starting her own business and needed financial support. They were already contributing, and they expected me to do the same. Despite my protests, especially given Mia's long history of cruelty toward me, the pressure kept mounting. My dad eventually gave me an ultimatum: either I support Mia, or he wouldn't pay for my college or let me live at home. Wanting peace to focus on my finals, I reluctantly gave in, handing over the $117,000. 3 months later,
I had been accepted into the college of my choice,
and my parents agreed to cover my tuition and living expenses since I'd be attending out of state. While it seemed like sacrificing the inheritance was a practical compromise, I still felt uneasy about the whole situation. Recently, Mia hosted a launch party for her store, which was focused on revolutionary clothes and accessories.
According to her and her friends, the same ones who had tormented me during the beach incident.
I wasn't invited to the party, which my parents excused as adults only, though it felt like another way to exclude me. The next day, Mia sent me a bunch of photos from the event, thanking me with a smug grin for my $117,000 contribution, which she claimed made the party possible. As frustrating as it was to see her gloating, what caught my attention was one familiar face in the photos: her high school ex-boyfriend, John. He had gained some weight and grown stubble, but it was definitely him. Mia had started dating John when she was 19, and he was 22, something our parents initially disapproved of because of the age gap and John's reputation. Despite their objections, Mia secretly continued seeing him.
John had a shady past,
including an attempt to steal from his father's company,
which led to their breakup after just 8 months.
He eventually moved to Wyoming to work on his uncle's farm, and Mia was devastated. She even begged our dad to help John find a job locally so they could stay together. But Dad refused, demanding that Mia cut all ties with him. That day was filled with chaos, Mia pleading,
Dad furious,
Mom crying, and through it all, I was told to stay in my room, away from the drama. Even though I wasn't involved in the serious family discussions, I was always around to overhear the conversations about Mia's business. My parents and Mia seemed to forget I was there, openly discussing her struggles to secure financial backing for her shoe and accessory store.
Many of her friends' parents were hesitant to invest,
with one mother, who was a single parent, particularly reluctant. She didn't want to risk her savings on what she considered a shaky business and wanted her daughter to gain more work experience before diving into entrepreneurship. However, she had tentatively agreed to invest later if the store proved successful in its initial months. As I watch Mia's life unfold with the backing of my money, I'm left wondering about the true cost of family obligations and the price I've paid for peace.
Knowing that the business was financially precarious and barely able to survive its first few months without more funding,
I realized how vulnerable their situation truly was. The sight of John, Mia's questionable ex, in the background of the launch party photos sparked an idea. Given the already fragile confidence of the credit analyst, any association with someone like John could tip the scales against them. Using a fake social media account, I contacted the hesitant credit analyst's mother, making sure to use Facebook's call feature to keep my identity hidden. After some initial hesitation, curiosity got the better of her, and she reached out. During our conversation, I explained who John was and detailed his dubious past, emphasizing the risks associated with the business's current connections. At first,
She was skeptical.
but her attitude shifted once I sent her old photos of Mia and John, which supported my claims. I made it clear that my intention was purely to inform her, leaving the decision to invest in her daughter's venture entirely in her hands. Once I provided all the necessary information, I ended the call,
allowing her to mull over the implications for her potential investment.
It seems she made a difficult choice, opting out of the commitment and advising her daughter to do the same. Since I contacted her, the situation has escalated, and no one suspects my involvement. I've been the catalyst in this whole mess, but it's Mia who's been urgently reaching out to our parents, hoping they might persuade our mother to reconsider her decision. Her friends are also upset. They feel betrayed that she kept such significant news from them, complicating matters. Mia recently reunited with John but kept his true identity a secret, which didn't sit well with our parents and everyone else. Now, she's caught in a tough spot, with friends and family distancing themselves from her, all upset by her actions. Part of me feels a twisted satisfaction seeing her struggle, especially considering how she tormented me during our childhood. But in truth, I find no joy in her distress. Watching the fallout unfold,
especially since the business meant so much to her,
makes me question if my actions were too vindictive. I overheard our parents discussing their disappointment. They're so upset that they're even considering pulling their investment from her business over this broken trust. It's rare for them to be this angry with her, marking a significant shift in their dynamic. Amid this turmoil, I've been reflecting on whether I should feel guilty for influencing a potential credit analyst to withdraw, triggered by past grievances. I appreciated everyone's responses to my post. They've convinced me to stay quiet about my involvement. If our parents ever found out, I'd likely be kicked out, especially now that I'm almost 19 and dependent on them for college funding. A week has passed since my last update, and Mia's situation has only worsened. The credit analyst's withdrawal led her daughter to do the same, putting Mia and her business in jeopardy. One of her friends is now demanding a larger share of the business, 70-50, after losing faith in Mia over the secret involving John. This friend discovered that John had stolen from his father's company, and despite Mia's attempts to maintain her fabricated story, no one believes her. She even claimed that the revealing photos were doctored, but this excuse has done little to spare her from our parents' daily reprimands. They're disappointed, yet they continue to support her, meeting with their lawyer each evening to navigate the crisis. Mia could end up losing shares in her business, and there's a real risk they might shut it down due to unresolved conflicts.
I've decided to stop fixating on these outcomes.
Interestingly, Mia's troubles have shifted the focus away from me, granting me newfound freedom. I've been relishing this anonymity, especially as I savor my last few weeks at home before college. With everyone preoccupied, I can come and go without being noticed. Whether I'm spending nights at a friend's house or just out late, no one seems to mind or even notice.
This has been the silver lining amidst all the chaos, providing me with space and peace.
However, I can't shake the worry that this family drama might impact my parents' willingness to finance my college education, a concern I hadn't fully appreciated until now. If it does affect their decision, it could complicate things for me.
Although it seems Mia is facing far harsher consequences.
3 weeks after my initial post, just when I thought I was out of the woods, the situation escalated again. The woman I had contacted buckled under pressure and indirectly revealed my involvement to Mia. She told Mia about an anonymous call and the photos she received, leading Mia straight back to me. Just yesterday, I had a heated encounter with Mia as I was about to leave the house. She confronted me, accusing me of sabotaging her, and pushed past me. I reacted defensively, and the situation escalated quickly. Now I'm worried about the repercussions of my actions, especially since she's vowed to retaliate. The entire situation has spiraled into a tangled mess, and I find myself caught in the middle, questioning whether my earlier actions were worth the chaos they've caused. Despite the panic swirling inside me during the confrontation,
I managed to maintain a composed demeanor,
vehemently denying any involvement in her accusations. I insisted that I barely knew her friend's parents, having only met them briefly at a lunch before their store opened. My denial was forceful, my voice steady,
even though I was fabricating every word.
The argument escalated, our voices rising until our parents stepped in to separate us. But Mia was relentless. Convinced I had sabotaged her business prospects, she demanded to search through my phone and laptop. I resisted, not because I had something to hide, but because agreeing too easily would look suspicious. Thankfully,
I had erased all traces from my devices that could link me to the anonymous call.
Mia assumed I had used my personal number, unaware of the disposable Facebook account I had created and deleted after reaching out to her friend's mother. Even after a thorough search of my social media and devices turned up nothing, Mia's frustration only intensified. She accused me of deliberately wiping my devices to cover my tracks. I countered that her paranoia was unfounded and it was unfair to lash out at me just because her business was at risk. Eventually, the situation calmed, and Mia, overwhelmed, broke down in tears. I thought the worst was behind me, but then my parents pulled me aside for a serious talk. They admitted they found no evidence to support Mia's claims, yet they still believed her, convinced that no one else could have known the details necessary to make those calls. My heart sank as they concluded that it must be me, especially since I had previously voiced my frustrations about Mia's treatment of me. To my dismay, they decided to withdraw their financial support for my college education, leaving me to fend for myself. They were resolute. They didn't want to argue any further. They had made up their minds. Desperate, I began yelling and crying, hoping to evoke some sympathy or reconsideration, but it was futile. Unlike the emotional outbursts Mia displayed, my pleas were met with indifference. After a harrowing half-hour of fruitless pleading, I retreated to my room, realizing just how isolated I was in this family conflict. Overwhelmed, I found myself holding onto the sapphire ring my grandmother left me, a potential lifeline that could fund my first semester if I chose to sell it. However, I wasn't sure it would cover all 3 years.
So I started considering taking out a student loan and asking a family member to co-sign.
With the college payment deadline looming just weeks away, I knew I couldn't afford to leave anything to chance. Since my last life update a month ago, a few days after my parents decided against financing my education, I realized I had no reason to stay or maintain contact with them. I packed my bags and moved in with a friend whose family welcomed me with open arms. My friend, planning to take a gap year to work in her dad's business, had no intention of using her college fund. Her parents, who had known me for years and considered me like a daughter, generously offered to allocate it for my education.
Though initially hesitant,
I accepted their kindness, promising myself to repay them one day. Now I'm on campus, thankfully without needing to sell my grandmother's ring, and I'm deeply grateful for the support from my friend and her family. As for Mia, her situation only worsened. She ultimately sold her shares in the business,
which are now entirely owned by her former partners.
She had to step away from the venture she had started, as trust had eroded beyond repair. Although she might be upset about the outcome, it was necessary, and my parents were powerless to change it. The future of the store seems uncertain, but that's no longer my concern. With no ties left to my family or to Mia, I'm fully focused on my own future, thankful for the unexpected support I've received and the new path I'm forging in college.